Well, good evening. I'm Jeremy, and once again, I'm going to bring you a video on how songs come to be. And this particular song, or the song in question, is called "The Little People," and it's the song which I've most recently released a version of. It's essentially the final version, although the final mix that comes out on record may end up being a little different. But I'm not anticipating it'll be too different. But we'll see, won't we? So I haven't done a video for a while. Been occupied with I had a gig in the weekend, and that was really cool. It was in Geraldine, a little town. Well, in a different part of the country, I guess, depending on where you're watching this from. It's about 3 hours away from here where I live. And before that, for the few weeks before that, I was fairly preoccupied with getting ready for that gig. But straight into it. So the song was written on an electric guitar, clearly not this guitar. But it was written in this room, and I wasn't sitting here. I was sitting just over there, approximately barely 3 meters away, in this chair, on this chair, most likely. Yeah, I can still remember I was just sitting there noodling around, an electric guitar plugged into my pedals, and I just started going for no particular reason. That's pretty cool. There must definitely be a song in that. And so I played around with that for a while, and that became yeah, and if you listen to the song, which you can hear on YouTube on this channel, you'll hear there's quite a distinct sort of delay setup. I've basically got 2 delay pedals that I'm running one into the other, and that's essentially where that riff came from just sort of noodling around and realizing, oh, that fits really well with that delay. And so that what I've just played you is the intro, the verse. Chorus, I can't remember. I have this funny feeling that maybe I had it sitting around. It was like this idea, but I may be misremembering. It was a few years ago now. But the chorus is similar chords. It's got an extra chord in there, and it goes. Repeats that a few times, essentially, and there's a little variation at the end. Yeah, and then in the middle is a little a breakdown or a bridge. Goes. A little bit more difficult to play on this guitar. Yeah, and then and if you listen to the song, you'll hear how there's different layers come in, it builds and gets it's pretty tanked by the end. It's cool. There is actually some acoustic guitar in there. It's just layered in very, very quietly, just to sort of add some texture. yeah, so that's the musicality of it. As I say, it's written on electric guitar, so it has a very, very different kind of sound. Yeah, and there's obviously there's bass and drums. There's some piano in there, which I really like. As far as the lyrics go, if you've watched any of these sorts of videos before, you know I don't really like to say what the song is about per se. Having said that, the song's called "The Little People," and it's not about people whose stature, physical stature, is little. I think the lyrics of the song are fairly straightforward, so have a listen. You should work it out. But in terms of how sort of where it came from, I was playing around with the chorus, and I could sort of hear in the final line, "We are the little people," and I was like, "Oh, that's quite cool. Okay, that could be something." And the other main sort of inspiration that I had was I'd gotten a book out from the library, the public library, in sometime, like in the months leading up to that, or around the time I wrote it, and it was a collection of like original Conan the Barbarian stories, or Conan the Cimmerian, I suppose, is more accurate. And so I read that, and I quite enjoyed it. And it was a compilation of stories that had been put together, and the title of the compilation was a part of a line taken from one of the stories, the very first story, I think. And it was, "And their memory was a bitter tree." I read that, I was like, wow, I love that. I don't know what it means, but it sounds dark and heavy, so cool. And so there's some, again, if you listen to the song later on, there's some references to, I've essentially used that line as as part of the lyrics, as part of the imagery, and I was quite chuffed with how that turned out. So yeah, I mean that's it. As I say, I don't want to go into the detail of what the song is about. To me, if you listen to it, you'll probably conclude that it has, it's about certain things, and the things you conclude that it's about will most likely be the things that I was thinking about when I wrote it. I don't think it's that cryptic. But it's not for me to spoil that for you. So there you go. How songs come to be, The Little People. Yep. Have a good night.